Ladies, gentlemen, and Haradrim of all ages, after a couple of weeks of relative silence from the developers of Diablo 4 after the Season 4 PTR is wrapped up, the test phase ended, and we were told that they were all just sort of head down deep in work mode, getting things done based off of our feedback, and now they are finally ready to actually show us what has changed, as well as what we don't know, because today we have a number of things being announced related to the game. First up, and most importantly for the immediate future at least, this coming Thursday, just a couple of days from now, we have a live stream that will be happening, the proper developer update stream for Season 4, announcing the theme itself of the season and the sort of hook, which we don't know because we didn't get to see it on the PTR. They wanted to keep that a bit of a surprise, even aside from our test, as well as going over all the feedback that the developers got from said PTR and how they have changed from things like that. So the stream will honestly be extremely telling for how the game will be received in the future. Those of us who played on the PTR found it to be quite refreshing, solid changes, but needing a bit more polish for sure, a bit more tuning up, a bit more, just to work around the edges. And the way that they've reacted to the feedback, and essentially that combined with our look at these special season mechanics that we'll be seeing revealed for Season 4, is just going to be very telling of how Season 4 is going to go. Obviously, full judgment is hard to give before we have our own hands on with the season, but this advanced look is our best way of knowing ahead of time if we're going somewhere better, as we are repeatedly told will be the case, or if we are locked into the same cycle, so we'll sort of have to see the results of this. Aside from that though, there are some other things going on recently, including another interview with Ferguson, GM of all things Diablo, who has been quite busy recently talking about the game. But this time he actually did have some things to say that were more than just purely promotional, and some of what he said has riled up a bit of anger from the community in some reasonable ways. So let's dive into the meat of it. First things first, there was some talk about Season 2 and why he thinks it landed well, why it's been the best season so far in the community's eyes. And Rod's thoughts are that it is a combination of the vampiric powers just being a far more approachable concept than either the Season 1 or 3 powers, both conceptually, both as far as how they work mechanically, and just the idea of these powers to begin with. Then he also mentions a big mission for Season 2 was just tightening up optimization of the game in ways that let them increase monster density in various places of the game, which helped make a lot of parts of the game feel better and better. In the end, it just sort of laid the groundwork for things like the new version of Helltide that we're going to be having in Season 4, which is very similar to Season 2's Blood Harvest. He goes in further to say that they've been striving for further and further density increases to reach the point that we're at with the new version of Helltide, but that as they increase the density more, it actually becomes even more of a battle fighting against the tech side of the game and making it actually feasible for even further density increases. Then the topic of monetization comes up, and it almost reads like Rod got excited to talk about monetization because he wants to make money, obviously. He brings up how they added in bundles recently that are accessible because they are half the price of the normal full armor bundles, so people shouldn't be complaining, right? But that doesn't really make anything better because you're still asking people for money for any of the decent cosmetics in the game, in a game that is also a full AAA price game to begin with, and that will also be getting a paid expansion literally later this year and on a yearly schedule. This game is monetized out the ass, and saying something like these new sets are half of the price that we normally put sets to just means nothing, because they created the price of the original sets that they're referring to. Them advertising this new set as being cheaper than the other ones is a completely artificial economy structure that they have made themselves to make this one sound reasonable, to try and entice you to spend money here. It's a terrible defense of a bad system, so it just sort of is what it is. That ends the interview though. Moving on to our last bit of news, which is both big in general, sort of, but also small in how it will affect us as Diablo fans specifically, which is BlizzCon 2024 being fully cancelled. This is normally where Blizzard will do their big announcements for the year, and as we have been told a number of times, Diablo 4 is planned to have yearly expansions, and especially given its first expansion was announced at the last BlizzCon, it would then follow and make sense for the next expansion to be announced at this year's BlizzCon, right? Except that no longer exists, which makes it a bit more interesting to try and predict when that announcement could happen. That said, this seems to be a result of a mix of the merger and the layoffs that started the year. It's not a permanent end to BlizzCon, though, mind you, just a year off, and they also made sure to mention that there will be lots of information about Vessel of Hatred as well as other Blizzard projects coming out later this year, just mostly centered around the more general gaming events in the community now that BlizzCon itself has been brushed aside for the year. As I said before, it is probably not a particularly big deal for us, realistically, the Diablo community specifically, but it definitely is news related to the game, so it was always going to be worth bringing up. That just about does it for today then, everyone. Just a sort of wrap up of not only the announcement of the proper Season 4 developer update livestream, which of course we will be covering immediately after if you want a concise and cut down version of the information, but also just the gist of an interview done by Ferguson, as well as the news regarding BlizzCon itself. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.